Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. We don't talk much about listed law firms on Fear and Greed, but there are 5 law firms listed on the ASX. The highest profile of those, Slater & Gordon, has had a bit of a troubled run over the past few years and might have scared a few investors out of the sector. But there are some success stories. One of those is Australian Family Lawyers, or AF Legal, a company that's using technology to disrupt family law. Grant Dearlove is the Managing Director of AF Legal Group, as well as being a lawyer himself. Grant, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Great to be on the show, Sean. Thanks for having me.
So tell me about AF Legal. What's your sweet spot? Where do you work? That type of thing.
Yeah, well, Australian Family Lawyers listed on the Australian Stock Exchange in 2019, but we really commenced as a startup in 2015 out of Melbourne. And effectively, from the kitchen table of the founder, we focused on securing and helping Australians with their family law issues through digital applications. So we find and educate Australians on their relationship issues, and they come to us for help. And through that, we created a law firm around that, and we've grown significantly since then to be the only and largest national family law firm in the country.
Okay, so family law, I think most of us broadly understand what you're talking about, and I suppose most of us think of separation and divorce when we think of family law, but what does it encompass more broadly?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sean, because people think of family law as divorce because it's the colloquial association or alignment with family law, but it's much more than that. Family law encompasses about 20 services. It includes things such as adoption, surrogacy, it involves children and custody. There are property disputes, there's commercial enterprises that are involved in assets in the dissolution of relationships. It's quite extensive, including, the types of cases that are run through arbitrations and mediations. It's quite an extensive area, and it's not just within Australia. Australians travel overseas, so there's a lot of extraterritorial law. So it's a very comprehensive area of Australian jurisprudence.
Okay, now the thing that struck me when I started looking at AF Legal is that it's very heavily driven by data. For example, you know that people are searching for family law advice on Monday mornings after school holidays. That's right?
Yeah, so as I said, we started the business with a digital platform to find as many Australians as we could to offer our services and help them. So the digital world, as everyone will know, has its own ecosystem, and very few lawyers or law firms understand it. But that's where we've built our business around. So we can, through the tactics that we run, the types of applications that we use, how we apply them, follow what's happening in the family law market. So that, by way of illustration, can mean anything from watching a particular market and how many people are searching online by using tag words for divorce lawyers or custody matters. We can follow and watch customers when they search for us and where they use Google to find our offices and where they travel from, so we can see where they're coming from. And importantly, because of the strength of our company and the capital that we raised through our listing, we've been able to invest in a lot of technology around that, which includes Salesforce, which is a CRM system. So we can follow the analytics and demographics of the clients that retain us, and then we can focus on them and we can monitor our return on marketing investment and where to spend it across the landscape. We use social media platforms, we use Google, we use pay-per-click, organic optimization, content management. How we structure and position ourselves in the market is quite unique. And, when we started from humble beginnings, it took us about 18 months to grow our practice to a position that takes some family law firms 30 years to achieve.
Okay, so it's sort of bringing digital marketing skills very much to the industry. With people wanting lawyers, when I think of digital marketing and kind of some of the businesses I've been involved with have used digital marketing regularly, you have to be really flexible though. You have to go where the audience is, in my case, or where the customers are in your case. Are there actually trends in family law?
Yeah, there certainly are trends that we see. So across the year, you can see spikes at certain periods of time. So certainly after Christmas, there is a spike when people have decided to start the new year afresh and dissolve their relationships. During COVID, with the pressures of home isolation, homeschooling, quite often people will make decisions then under those stresses that they don't want to stay with the person they're in a relationship with. So in the first stages of COVID, we saw a significant spike. On days of the week, we tend to see a lot of activity after the weekend, and then after the hump day and Wednesday, we see spikes in the inquiry that we get. And then you see societal trends as well. So we're currently seeing situations where married couples are deciding that they don't want to be together after 2 years of marriage. And then there's a number of other ones that are deciding that their relationships are dissolved best after their kids have finished school. So you see all these dynamics across Australian society, which is quite interesting, but it also lends us from a business point of view of how we can focus on helping those people.
Okay, so how do you help them? I mean, if I am in a situation where I need a lawyer, and it may be separation/divorce, it may be succession, it may be some commercial arrangement, is it always a face-to-face meeting? Is it? I mean, you suggested earlier on there was actually quite a bit of online business that you conduct.
Yeah, so I think we start on the premise that we try not to be transactional. So we're not out there doing a hard sell. So our focus is always about educating the customer. So our digital application or focus is around providing education. And I think it's fair to say that we arrived on the scene at a time when most Australians covertly were trying to find out about their relationship rights online. And it's an easy private way to do it. And so when they did that, from us, they get an education piece. They're able to download information about what their rights are through brochures, through podcasts, through links. And so we're about helping the customer. And then when they decide to make a decision about their dissolution or their rights regarding their various circumstances, they contact us. And then we have a sales process that we take them through to introduce them to a lawyer. Different circumstances prevail. So we have a free appointment where they can get some high-level information for about 15 minutes. There's a 1 hour paid appointment, or in some circumstances where it's fairly severe, there's an immediate retainer. And within 24 hours, they're in front of a lawyer. Normally that used to be face-to-face, but we're finding that over 70% in recent times with lockdowns are doing it through Zoom and Teams. And from there that we start. So it's a modern way of lawyers interacting with their clients, but it's equally as effective as someone travelling 50 kilometres to see a lawyer for their problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay with me, Grant. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Grant Dearlove, Managing Director of AF Legal. So if I want to invest in AF Legal, are you expensive in terms of what you charge customers and clients and things like that? And your revenue is what I'm interested in if I want to invest in you.
Yeah, so we apply in terms of our fees a fairly rudimentary legal model, but because of the efficiencies that we create in our back of house and through the applications and the new law way that we operate, we can create efficiencies and have the clients reach a conclusion for their matter a lot quicker and a lot more economically. And that's really our competitive advantage. Our new law model is a way of driving clients' cases to a conclusion, getting them the result without the long-winded, traditional, antiquated legal approach. And that might mean anything from simply we're paperless.
Yep.
So that saves money. There's no photocopying expenses. We don't have photocopiers.
Okay.
So all of those things add up for a value proposition for the client that is a lot more economical than the traditional models.
So do you think the market is going that way? Again, as an investor, I want to know what your total addressable market is. Do you think that more people will use services like you guys in the future rather than the traditional law firm where you drive 50 minutes to get to see someone for half an hour?
Well, I certainly hope so, Sean, because we've sort of demonstrated to date that our growth is indicative of an appeal out there in the market. So when you look at the size of the family law market, most of your listeners won't appreciate that Australians spend $1.1 billion per annum on family lawyers. And that's an interesting statistic when you consider that 50% of the legal relationships in this country fail. and that's marriages, de factos, and since 2017, same-sex marriages. So the pool of relationships out there has grown over history. It encompasses not just married couples, but people in relationships. It's a $1.1 billion market, and it's happening. It's omnipresent in our community. So everyone will know someone that's going through a relationship issue, and with that comes some legal rights and responsibilities. So it's a big market, and it's a big market for demand. It's a question of how law firms meet that demand and what they do to innovate. And through our model, reaching the clients, educating them, and putting them in the hands of a lawyer very quickly, our value proposition is around getting the client through to a conclusion of the matter, but in the same time making sure that they're not just the health of their legal position, but their health in a fairly traumatic personal circumstance is looked after. It's our holistic care model. So it's a massive market, and we've demonstrated through our growth that the market's responding to what we offer.
Are there more divorces now in the last 2 or 3 years as a result of COVID, or separations, legal separations?
Well, that's an interesting play from an investor's point of view, because we're a very defensive stock and an investment, because the number of divorces has remained consistent for the last 20 years at over 50,000 a year. But that's against the background where there's less people getting married. So the rate of divorce has fallen from about 47% to 41%, because divorce pertains to married couples. What we don't keep statistics on is de facto relationships, and more Australians are joining in de facto relationships. And after 2 years of a relationship, the same legal rights prevail as what you do as if you're married. So if you add the de factos to the married couples, it does create a very significant pool. But despite the marriage rate dropping, the divorce rate has remained consistent, and that's probably a driver of population growth. Yeah. It's a very, very defensive play.
Yeah. Grant, now, you've been a lawyer. You've had a great career as a solicitor and a mediator. You've certainly spoken at many conferences, and now you're running a business. What do you prefer, practicing law or running an ASX-listed company?
Oh, look, I've done both. I think my days as a lawyer, Sean, have passed now, and my focus is on Australian family lawyers. Running a listed law firm is very dynamic. There are so many stakeholders that traditional lawyers don't get to deal with, from investors to funds to clients to staff to suppliers to regulators and society. So it's an incredibly diverse range of stakeholders, and it's pressure. It's pressure-packed in the sense that, we are here to perform for those that support us and invest in us, as well as our clients. So you're serving a lot of masters. But I like the pressure. I think it allows us to drive a high level of performance out of the company, a high level in an area of the law which has been sort of fairly antiquated and simple, and I enjoy that dynamic. And I think across my career and my exposures to international companies and commercial businesses has allowed me to take the best parts of those experiences and apply them to Australian family lawyers. And, we've built a great company. We've only got 1% of the market, the accessible market for us. So there's significant opportunity for us to continue to grow and serve more Australians through what we've done and the uniqueness of our business model.
Grant, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Pleasure, Sean. Great to be on the show.
That was Grant Dearlove, Managing Director of AF Legal. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join me every morning for the full Fear and Greed podcast with all the business news you need to know. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.